All right. If you've never seen it, this is Trello. Trello is a free application made by Atlassian. There is a paid version. I personally use the free one all day long at home. We use the paid one at work, but both of them will work out great for you. And we'll talk about some of the differences. But basically, Trello is this thing right here. It's a board. That's what the whole thing is called. And the board is made up of lists, and the lists contain cards, and the cards would tend to be tasks that need to get done. The lists are rearrangeable, so you could build a process flow like to do, to in progress, to done, or they can be broad categories of information. Each list could represent a whole project if you want. And they're very easy to make. You just come over here and just add another list. And as far as I know, there's no known limit that I've reached of the number of lists that you can have on one board. There's something really beautiful about the flexibility of this, because you can just get started right away and just throw down tasks and just go with the flow. One nice thing is that all of these items, they move very, very easily from list to list, and you can re-rank them within the list, which is part of that constant prioritization that's very important. And if we just, click into one of these, basically we have a summary. We have a description that has wiki style editing, so I could add, headers in here. So I could make, maybe this is the outline, notes, and then I have like another section below that. We can do bulleted lists, we can do numbered lists, you can make things in red, whatever you want. And then you can save that information here. We can also add attachments to these cards. We can add links to important documents. We can comment. So maybe there's an update to this item that we need to let people know about. If you're sharing a board with more than just yourself, you can have conversations around work items here. And then as you change things, we can click on show details, and you can see the major changes that were made. Did it move from a list? When did it move? Who moved it? And there's a lot of other cool stuff in here too. You can add specific members to this card to represent the people that should be doing the work. You can add a checklist. I personally love the checklists here. So item 1, item 2, and then you can check them off as you go. And you can hide the checked items if you want, such that every time you come back here, you can see the next thing to get done. You could add dates to this card. So you could add a due date, for example, and a start date. And you can have Trello remind you before that due date, which is quite helpful. You can set a location. If you have the premium version, you can create custom fields that your team members can use to capture important information and reinforce that they need to add that information. There's so much in this tool. I cannot speak highly of it enough. And what I like the most about it is so simple to get started. Just start capturing your ideas.
So what this has basically replaced for myself and for my team members is the notepad on the side of our desk that travels from meeting to meeting, or even most presently, OneNote.
Yeah.
So, I work, I'm a pretty high functioning business partner, right? So I have a lot of meetings with stakeholders on a daily basis. And so the way that I'm really kind of building out my specific Trello board, because you're right, it's so adaptable. I'm not really confined to anything specific, though I think you had said once, like, it's quite easy to find templates, which is really wonderful. But the way that I'm using this is it has effectively replaced my note keeping with individual stakeholders. And then also in my, say, one-on-one meetings with my direct team members, those who I'm collaborating with most often. And what I can do then is house everything, visible or not, with those specific team members so that we know that we've captured everything appropriately. Because far too often can we be in a conversation that's rapid fire, or as you said, it's on the way to the bathroom and you say, yep, okay, I need to pocket that. You can just put your little blips down on here, revisit, build it out, and then set in triggers like a date. Who needs to have visibility into this task? What do I need to do with it? Is it a project? Is it a task? Is this done? Do I delegate?
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful tool for that. And it's honestly a lot more visible and accessible than something like OneNote.
Yeah.
Because the one thing it does do for us is it puts the tiniest oomph behind your step to make sure that your note taking is visible. So what I mean by that is we all have our very effective ways of taking notes during a meeting, right? Maybe it's got swirls and lines and colors and all these different things. But that doesn't quite work in HR, right?
Yeah.
Because leaders or team members I'm collaborating with need to be able to jump in and understand it. So, like, you're right, things like the checklist, things like having an outline seated in these cards where we can invite team members to be part of it. I just love it. I love it. And it does, it captures everything. It's all locked down. That was one thing I don't think you mentioned yet. While this is a completely free tool, it is still like, it is your board. It is locked down as much or as little as you wish it to be. Yeah. As far as who you're sharing it with team members. So it fits. It's I'm going to use the word, it's compliant. Yeah. in the sense that, you know, only those who I want to see it will see it. Yeah. In that first webinar for SHRM, I briefly started to dive into this as such a wonderful solution tool for the idea of working in public. And we kind of dove a little bit deeper into that as a solution, because as HR team members, as other business units, right, our day is constantly taken from us. Yeah. Right? We are jumping into the next very critical conversation. We need to be able to pull in our team members at any time to say, oh my goodness, can you finish this? And even taking the 5-10 minutes to context dump, Brian, help, right? Mayday. The solution that this provides is simply like, hey, Brian, can you please jump in my to-do list, this, and everything would be there for him where he could just jump in, has the context, has the next steps, and we can move forward together effectively as a team where nothing's getting lost. So it's just such a good solution tool. And the fact that it's free, the fact that it is so adaptable. Yeah. I really love it.
No, me too.
Probably sounds silly with how I love it, but I love this tool.
When you find a good tool, yeah, it makes a huge difference. Some other helpful things. Maris mentioned a place to capture. David Allen in his book talks about the importance of capture. So whenever I make a board for my personal use, and I've got one for work and I've got one for home, because I want to keep those contexts totally separate. And actually, I have one between my partner and I, so that's where we share restaurants that we want to visit, movies we want to watch, things like that. But over here on the inbox column, if I have a brilliant shower idea, I could just put that in there. Or if I'm need to talk to my boss, and my boss's initials are GH, talk about X. And then inevitably I wind up needing to talk about so much more than X. So I wind up coming in here and I make a bulleted list of all the things that I need to talk about with them. Some other things that help, we suggested to do in progress and completed columns. The nice thing about that is that you can remind yourself what you're currently working on by moving things into in progress. And if you follow agile methodologies, you'll be reminded that you shouldn't have too many things in progress at once. Too many things in progress means you just can't get anything done. And then completed is a nice way to double check and say, oh, wow, I did get that done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. There's also this function in Trello where if you add 3 dashes to a card, it'll make a line. And so I use this line where anything above it is my most important tasks for today, besides whatever I'm already working on. And I can move this up and down too. But that tells me that this stuff is just not as important down here. I also like having a delegated and waiting item. So maybe I'm working on this and I've done it and it's ready for review. I'll move it over here and I'll just add the person that is working on this or that I'm waiting on. And then sometimes I'll even put in a deadline for me to check back and see. A project column, priority projects. I like this because if you're really into getting things done, you'll notice that this is really great for those clear next actions that you're supposed to always have, but it's not so great for rolling things up into projects. And there's a number of ways to do that within Trello, but my favorite way is to simply create a project column, make sure that I never have more than certainly not more than 5, but usually preferably just 3 projects that I am currently responsible for. And then every day I glance at that column, and then I make sure that I've got something in my to-do list that is the next actionable thing for each of those projects that I'm currently working on. I find that quite helpful.
That actually lends to another amazing way in which you can build these boards out. In my case, I've got my to-do list. I have my to-do list board, right? We've talked through that. But as Brian said, like there's not exactly a limit. And so you can have a personal task board, right? Which is this one so aptly named, or the idea of a project board. So having those big items, maybe, the blueprint of your HR function, those big goals, as we said, the goals and the visions for the department. And then you can still see all of those important things underneath, right?
Yeah.
So a column would say something like improve onboarding. We'll talk about that in our next tool. Maybe it's specifically integrate new AI tools for the team for efficiencies. And so our column would say something like that. And then each card you would be able to adapt with a to-do list, different phases of that project. It's such a beautiful, it's as adaptable as your pen and paper.
Yes.
Right. I love that part, because I was a colored pen and pad of paper person forever. I still go back to that, right? But now it's transferable and it's conveyable, which is so, so important. The last little piece I wanted to talk about this, as far as HR, like how I'm using it as a solution as an HR team member, is actually in my one-on-ones. So what is so amazing about this is if you do have a board, in my case, I do, as I mentioned, with those stakeholders, what it actually does is maximize the time that you're spending in meetings. And everyone, no one is immune to the exhaustive recurring meeting demon that happens on our calendars. But we never want to give up that absolutely valuable time with team members, with stakeholders, with leaders, whoever it is that we are spending our time with, right?
Yeah.
But there are so many ways in which we can maximize that value. And utilizing tools like this, when you have everything laid out, first of all, there's a good chance you already have them connected to the board. And so they've got visibility, clear visibility into it at any point in time that they need it, right? Again, it's not housed in your OneNote on your desktop, right? It's not traveling with you from meeting to meeting. It's accessible no matter where you are, where you are in the world, where you are in time. It's right there. And so it also leads and guides discussions, bringing the ability to have very, very effective one-on-ones and enjoy, if you do have extra time, actually just getting to be a person versus let me think through this laundry list of items that I've been collecting to put forward. So it's just such a wonderful tool for that.
One other way that we use it internally as well, and I love this is also the way that Atlassian, the makers of this product, use it too, is we have an onboarding template board. And so that has, to do, in progress, done. And then we use a feature that we haven't shown yet, which is labels. So if you come here and you can add colored labels, you can also add things like, 30 days. And so everything in green is going to be a 30-day item. And so those stack up first within the to-do column. And whenever a new person comes on board, their manager copies the template, adds additional tasks that are relevant for their job. And we have a database of those tasks living in a different tool ready to go. And then the manager and the new hire both have visibility to that board, and the manager can just glance at the board and see how the new hire is doing. It's a great way to see if someone's a self-starter. It's a great way to see if somebody needs a little nudge, to see how they think. You can comment on the cards back and forth. And it's just a nice source of truth for how somebody is progressing in the first 30, 60, or 90 days. One other thing before we switch to the next demo is there's also some other views besides just the board view. And those views are available in the paid version in Trello Premium. One of those is a calendar view. And that's where, and I only have one thing on this board with a date, which I think was in November. And so you'll see, there we go. So that card that had a deadline, we can even expand it across number of days between a start date and an end date. And when we click in, it'll pop up that card. There's also a list view where we can see all of our cards next to each other. That's actually the table view. There's a dashboard. There's a timeline view. There's a map coordinate view. But the list view, for example, here I can rapidly update fields across all the cards if I wanted to. All of those extra views come with the paid version, but honestly, you can get so much out of this on the free version. It's outstanding.
Well, the calendar view is amazing because like it's the best tool for process planning. So I just keep throwing these out. This is how we use it, right? So for our merit increase process and like salary review, meritorious increases, yearly bonuses, right? I can put that process into motion, those key dates, and have a good scope. The other reason why this is great, through the process planning, you're automatically visibly showcasing capacity planning all in one. So again, when you have put in your processes built off of your goals, your visions, your projects, and you're putting it in a way that's a lot more accessible. You've got the alerts, like you said. You have the ability to dive right in there and do your quick to-dos, your quick delegations, but you're automatically doing that capacity planning. Any one of my leaders, my direct leaders, or my stakeholders could jump in
and see how much you're doing.
See what I want to see. Yeah, see what I want them to see, which is important, right? See what I want them to see. But notice that if I say, gosh, the end of September, if we can move this to the first week of October, you're going to get the best product. And they'll know that that's not anything short of that's the best time for me to deliver this on you. I just love it. It's very, very effective for our teams because I don't think we mentioned this yet, but we are a global organization. So here at Valiantis, right, my team members, I'm the only one that sits within the United States. And of course, with different countries come different time zones. And so this is such a beautiful way to showcase what we're working on, where we're at in the process, what's on the horizon, what might we be daunted about, how can we reshift focus. Love it. Great calendar tool.